higher ketones do not equal more fat loss. This is something I've said so many times, especially a lot in the recent live hangouts, and it's something that just keeps coming up over and over again. I can't tell you how many times. I mean, every single week I'll get at least 2 emails from new clients working with me on fat loss, lifestyle changes, to dial in their lifestyle so they can lose body fat long term. And these people, a lot of them have already started a ketogenic diet. Keto's becoming so popular now, a lot of these people, they dive right into it. And unfortunately, the internet is kind of a cesspool of misinformation, repeated and parroted ad nauseum. So people believe that you need to eat more and more and more fat and have less and less and less protein and lower the carbs more and more and more and more to get more and more and more results, right? The internet's one of these places where hyperbole catches attention. So if low carb is good, no carb must be better. If some ketones are good, more ketones must be more good. That's kind of the thinking that goes on there. People are attracted to extremes. And there's a lot of people on the internet making keto sound super complicated. It's kind of this like sexy thing to complicate something, right? Well, if you're doing a ketogenic diet, you got to do this. If you're not having this every morning, you're not in ketosis. If you're not measuring your blood ketones every time you step on a crack, every 5 minutes after every meal you eat, then you might not be in ketosis. And if you're not in ketosis, then the world's going to end. You're not going to get your results. This is very misleading. It's incredibly misleading. So I'm trying to clear the air here. I'm trying to make things simple so that people can do this on their own. It's not difficult. It's not esoteric. It's not something that we should be overcomplicating. So a ketogenic diet is a diet that is low enough in carbohydrate that will force you to burn fat for energy. Your body's been using ketosis for millions of years. This is a process that allows us to survive through famine, whether that famine be several hours in between meals when we need to keep our blood sugar regulated through gluconeogenesis, whether that famine just be for a few days because you're on a long hike or a long journey or a long hunt, or if that famine happens to be for an entire season, like the harsh winters that we've experienced throughout the development of our cultures. Ketosis allows us to get through these times. A ketogenic diet actually leverages the advantages of this state to allow people to be in a state of low hunger, a state of low inflammation, a state of balanced neurology and neurochemistry, so that a lot of them feel less anxiety. People have been using a ketogenic diet to treat depression. It can be very, very powerful. Of course, it's not a magic wand. It doesn't magically fix all these things, and it doesn't magically make you lose fat. The magic about keto is it makes you not hungry, so it makes you naturally eat less. This doesn't mean that because you're on keto and you end up eating less that somehow energy balance doesn't matter. That just because you're not having to count calories, just because you're not having to count calories doesn't mean that the quantity of food you're eating doesn't matter. The cool thing about keto is it makes it so that a lot of people just naturally restrict their energy intake, meaning they'll burn more body fat and lose more fat. But that's not the case for everybody. Some people still have ravenous hunger on keto. Some people got messed up leptin. Some people have leptin resistance. There's a lot of different things going on here that can affect the burning of fat. Just the presence of ketones doesn't give you much information at all. So here's an example. You can push your ketones very, very high. You can push your ketones incredibly high using products that cost about $5 per dose. And these are exogenous ketones. You can push your ketones up, be in ketosis within 1 hour. Say the marketers. You can lose 2 pounds of body fat a day. I've seen some of these obnoxious ones say. And just because there's some obnoxious marketers out there doesn't mean that all these products are completely useless. But for fat loss, if you're looking to lose body fat, save your money on these exogenous ketones. As an example, you can push your ketones up very, very high, but you're not going to be burning ketones that are made from your body fat because you're putting an exogenous fuel source in when you put these exogenous ketones in. I mean, it's taking these exogenous ketones, it's kind of like taking those carb gel packets that endurance athletes who are on carbohydrate-based diets take. You know, it's quick energy. It's instant energy, but it's not energy generated from burning body fat. That's what you want if you're doing this diet for fat loss. All right. Also, there have been a lot of studies looking at lower carbohydrate diets, some of them actually measured blood ketone levels. Now, what's funny is in none of these studies did higher blood ketone levels associate with more long-term fat loss. In fact, in most of these studies, in the first few weeks, people would have blood ketones at like 1.1 in one of these studies. I forget the exact title of it. I'm sorry. You can look up on PubMed. Low-carb versus Mediterranean diet studies, low-carb long-term adherence studies, stuff like that. I'm throwing this out there. I'm throwing these numbers out there, and yeah, but I'm pretty close on what I'm saying here. Pretty close to right on these numbers. I remember the beta-hydroxybutyrate levels they were measuring in this study were about 1.1 in the beginning. Then after about like 6 months on this long-term low-carbohydrate diet, it was down on average to about 0.5, which is just barely ketosis. But the fat loss continued, and it didn't slow down when the people had lower blood ketone levels. Remember, I've said this before also, just because ketones are present doesn't mean that they're being efficiently utilized for fuel and processed. You know, I mean, it's like we don't look at blood glucose levels and think, oh, great, I got lots of blood glucose. I must be burning sugar really well. We think there's an issue when the blood glucose levels are super elevated because that means you're insulin resistant. You're not clearing it in to the tissues and using it as a fuel source. So anyways, those are some of the caveats that kind of illustrate the point that I'm making, which is that more ketones don't equal more results. You can chase ketones, or you can be concerned with the results that you want. So if you're looking for a ketogenic diet for fat loss, if you're utilizing it, if you're using it for fat loss, throw away those blood ketone strips. Stop complicating it. Stop wasting money on this. Spend your time and energy more wisely. This diet is supposed to be a long-term lifestyle change for people who have a lot of body fat to lose. This is not a short-term fix. Do it for 3 weeks. Great, I lost all the fat. I'm good now. I can do what I want. If you want to lose body fat long-term, it's got to be long-term habits that are built. It's got to be long-term lifestyle changes. That's what it takes. So, if you're looking for long-term lifestyle change, if you want to use a ketogenic diet to lose body fat, be concerned with the results, not concerned with these numbers on the blood glucometer. Don't get caught up in the glitzy, glammy novelty of like, oh, I can measure your blood ketones. Oh, yeah, waste $20 a day measuring your blood ketones. Don't get caught up in this madness. People are repeating what they've heard. Unfortunately, most of these people don't know what they're talking about when they're recommending these things like, you got to eat 80% fat. You got to increase the fat. Drop the protein if you're not getting the results because more fat equals more ketones equals more fat loss. That's not how it works. I hope this was helpful. I'm trying to keep it simple, trying to keep it basic for you guys, trying to give you guys the information you need so you can do this on your own without having to come to me for help. Because I can't tell you how many clients I've gotten that were confused on this issue. I'd say 50% of the people that come to me have been measuring their blood ketones or urine ketones, wasting time and energy and not getting results and even gaining fat, gaining weight while they're doing this and having these super high ketones, and regardless they're gaining weight because they're eating more than they're burning, because energy balance matters, because the laws of physics still apply in the context of a ketogenic diet. And one of the issues is also that most of the recipes out there, when you're looking at keto recipes, a lot of the stuff is just pumped full of fat. I mean, a lot of these keto recipes out there are like clickbait things, repeating the same things over and over again, and they're all making sure they've got 80% fat. I mean, some of the fat levels on these recipes I've seen online are so ridiculous that nobody going for fat loss is going to be eating the same exact recipes, these macros. So that's part of the reason why my lovely wife Jessica, who's the author of the Ketogenic Edge Cookbook, a training manual for low carbohydrate, ketogenic, and paleo cuisine. This is why my wife Jessica spent so much time making all the recipes fat loss friendly in this book and teaching you. This is the important part, right? You lead a horse to water, but you can't teach it to drink. Well, this book will teach all you horses to drink. It'll teach you to actually navigate your kitchen, how to make and formulate well-balanced ketogenic meals that give you all the nutrients you need and hit your macros and don't give you gobs and gobs of extra fat that are going to make it hard to lose body fat because you can't burn body fat when you're pounding cups of melted butter. I'm sorry. Common sense still applies. So the laws of physics. So you can find the Ketogenic Edge Cookbook, which is complete with macros on every recipe. All the macros are fat loss friendly. She spent over 1.5 years making this book, and the results are incredible. It's a training manual. We call it a training manual for low carbohydrate, ketogenic, and paleo cuisine. And we're not just saying that. We're not just saying that. It was, oh, that sounds rad, training manual. That sounds really cool. No, It is a training manual. There's an entire section on how to use organ meats. There's an entire section training you how to use spice combinations to bring out different flavors. You can bring out sweet flavors without even having to add sweeteners, just by surrounding with certain spices. Cinnamon, allspice, pumpkin pie spice, stuff like that can be really good for this. Clove can also work well for bringing out sweet flavors. There's an entire section on that, entire section on organ meats, which are the most nutrient-dense parts of the animal that we often overlook and has become almost taboo in our society. She also teaches you how to make pemmican, this amazing Native American survival food that's been used for thousands of years. She's got this awesome pemmican recipe that we eat all the time, which I haven't had in weeks, actually. I'm going to have to bug her to make some sometime soon. But check out the Ketogenic Edge Cookbook. That's available exclusively at primaledgehealth.com. We teach you how to adjust the macros on the recipes by adjusting the levels of certain ingredients to increase or decrease your fat and protein level if needed. Because we know that not everybody needs gobs and gobs and gobs of fat. What's funny about this book, we call it the Ketogenic Edge Cookbook, right? It's a low-carb cookbook, but we've got kids who don't eat a low-carb diet, who don't eat a ketogenic diet. So she actually spent time and energy telling you how to modify a lot of these recipes to be more friendly to the people in your family and your friends who are not on a keto diet. Because we understand the social aspect of food, which can be kind of ridiculous sometimes, but in some people's lives it can be a game changer. So anyways, check out the Ketogenic Edge Cookbook, available exclusively at primaledgehealth.com. If you're interested in coaching, you can hit us up on the coaching section of primaledgehealth.com. And keep it simple. Simplicity is really, really important. If you're building a lifestyle, if you're building a new foundation of habits moving forward, it's got to be simple, it's got to be enjoyable, and it can't be overcomplicated, esoteric, and it can't keep you relying on stupid metrics like beta-hydroxybutyrate levels, which have no direct correlation or correspondence with body fat loss. So quantify body fat loss by body fat loss, not by a number on a blood glucometer. All right, I hope that simplifies things. I hope that saves you time, money, and energy, and saves you a lot of stress. You can find more at primaledgehealth.com. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.